Welcome to Amalgam Hour, the movie and comic podcast. I'm Robin.
I'm Dan.
You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. This is obviously the Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, review slash breakdown slash discussion slash essay slash rant
Just theorizing.
question. Yeah, and put all of it in the tag. So you've seen it, everything around this video. I personally, and I have to be very careful because everyone loves this film apparently, don't like this film as much as others. I don't dislike it.
When when the next DC film comes out, everybody will hate this film because that's how it works. So.
Exactly. And then 5 years from now, we'll be asking for the Matt Reeves cut. It's okay. But
Even though this is the Matt Reeves cut.
We'll ask for another one, the 5-hour edition, with more Joker. Oh, and in case you've got this far, this is a spoiler review.
Oh, whoops.
What? But yes, I personally don't rate this film as highly as other people are. I don't know how it compares to all the other Batman films, because I don't feel like I've watched...
If you watch them.
Yeah, I feel like I've watched them all, but through YouTube and like its influence on pop culture other than watching the films. So one day I'll do that, and maybe that's a future video, ranking the Batman films. But not today. Not today. So what we're going to do, we're going to discuss mostly my problems with this film. And Dan, have a quick thing about...
Them down.
Exactly. Have a quick thing. How do you feel about this film? Just in a broad sense before we get into this.
I
topic.
might have to watch it again to get a proper opinion, like
Definitely.
a proper thing on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As of right now, honestly, it might be my favourite Batman film.
Okay. You've heard it here, folks. It's the best Batman film. Dan just said it. That means it's
My
true.
personal favourite, but my opinion
Yes,
is irrelevant.
okay. Exactly. And everyone's is, so it's fine.
This is how a fandom works.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel that I need to watch it again. The one problem is, it's 3 hours long, so do I want to watch it again? Maybe not. Now let's quickly talk about this. It's not a problem I have, but what do you think about it being 3 hours long?
I think it works.
Yeah. This is
It needed the 3 hours, I think.
Yeah. To go into as much depth and as much... Now this
is the first time, I'll say it here, it's the first time, I always say Gotham City needs to feel like a character. This is the first time Gotham City, to me, has actually felt like a character.
Okay. That's interesting.
A lot of depth.
I don't feel, personally, like it felt like Gotham. The characters felt like Gotham. Like Jim Gordon and the whole gangster situation and stuff.
Yeah.
Now let's go on to that. That's one of my problems with this. It didn't feel like Gotham to me, and I don't know why. I think maybe visually, it didn't feel like Gotham to me. Because when I think of Gotham, I think of cathedrals and old style buildings combined with modern technology, you know?
Yeah, they've modernised Gotham a bit.
Yes.
But...
And I think they've gone too far to where it now looks like Times Square, and this is a small problem I have, and I only really noticed it when it was huge shots of the outside and stuff. Like in the first couple of minutes. This is going to be a very sporadic, rantish sort of review, so just stick through it. We'll promise you it'll be a good time. But within the first 10 minutes, there's a shot where it's like Times Square and it's loads of people, which makes sense. But then I always think of Gotham as having like gargoyles and cathedrals and huge spires, but then next to tall industrial buildings, which I don't think... I think the only time we've ever gotten that close to is like Tim Burton's Batman, you know?
Yeah, but Tim Burton's Gotham definitely feels Tim Burton.
Exactly. And I feel like that is closer to what Batman's Gotham is in the comics. And obviously, I personally feel like, should comic book movies stay within the guidelines of the comics? No, but if you're trying to invoke a theme or an idea, there has to be some similarity. And other than the Iceberg Lounge, which in its own way was modernized to be more like a rave club situation.
Or to be like a modern day.
Exactly. Where, like, in the comics, sometimes it's just like booths and girls dancing and that sort of thing.
But you had to make it look like something that people would go to.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But then to have Gotham look like Times Square, it just felt off to me. And I didn't see a gargoyle. I can't be watching a Batman film and not seeing a gargoyle, you know?
You can't pretend to be one.
Exactly.
That gets off on that.
That's a very small thing. To go back to the whole idea of, does this film need its runtime? Yes. Why? Because it's incredibly plot driven.
If it was any shorter, I'd have felt it'd have felt rushed.
I feel like it could have been shorter if shots were done quicker, but then you would take away from the tension and surprise of some scenes. Yeah. So it's a give and take. The one problem I have with it being plot driven, I personally don't feel like I know any of the characters in this world. Yes, I know their origins, I know this, that, and the other. Dan, name me an emotion we've seen from Batman that wasn't anger or Batman mode. Do you see him happy? Do you see him cry? Do you see him...
Seems sad.
You see him... No, you don't see him sad. You see him moody. You see him emo goth. Makes sense?
You see, like, sad, like, he's emotional, like, some sadness when he's talking to Alfred.
Exactly. He's either
it's a little bit
sad...
taken away when the guy in the back started going, no, Batman in that scene. But...
Yes. We had a weird movie experience with people shouting. But... And then I forgot about it, so it's okay. The only time with a scene I really like is between Alfred and Bruce Wayne. Because that's the first hit. I was like, oh, we're actually going to see an emotion. In this scene, I could see him crying or I could see him laughing with Alfred. And that would open me up to this character more. But the fact that he was always moody and he was always a combination of angry and sad and just...
I kind of like that.
Do you explain why?
Because like that's what they were going for in this movie, like a Bruce Wayne who is just Batman.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure it out, and I kind of like it.
I get that as like a stepping stone. This is a stepping stone to see the Batman we know. But there's a difference between yet again, my personal opinion. There's a difference between seeing Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. But in this film, I see Bruce Wayne as not being a person.
I don't really see Bruce Wayne. 90% of the film, he's in the Batsuit.
When I say Bruce Wayne, I mean Batman as well. Like, throughout this film, he doesn't feel like a character to me. Because we don't see a range of emotion. We don't see multiple motivations. We don't see... We don't... Like, name one thing he likes to do other than Batman. Name something, you know, about him other than related to the plot. Do you get what I mean?
Like, I kind of like it in this thing, because like, this is definitely... It's obvious this is meant to be more than one film.
Yes.
To give Batman... I reckon, like, what are they doing, a trilogy? I reckon by the end of the trilogy, this could be, like, a great...
Yeah. That's fair.
As of right now, we haven't got much Bruce Wayne. It's mainly been Batman.
That's one of my problems. A plot-driven film works if your characters are established. You know? Because I don't have to focus on what the character's like, because I already know. If this was the second movie after we've established Batman, and I don't mean show his origin, I don't mean...
We don't need to see
an origin story. You could start in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 47. Doesn't matter. But I need to get a grasp of what the character is like. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes,
you mean?
Here's the thing about fear. Yes, he's working towards being Batman. But I can't relate to him. I can't connect to him. I didn't see a person. Now, this is actually going to be a point that I like about this film. Catwoman.
She's the emotion and she's the emotional like core of the film, I'd say.
That's the thing. She's that because she's the only one who shows an emotion. Everyone else is a one-note emotion.
So we get the most, like, we get more backstory, we get her motivations, we get all this.
Exactly. She is multiple. She has to steal. She has to get revenge. She has to get back at her dad. And then at the end of the day, she still kind of cares for the people of Gotham, you know? Where Batman is, must stop Riddler. Why? He has a good motivation why. But he's only got one, and he's a very stale character. Compared to Catwoman, who we see her laughing. We see her being seductive. We see her fighting. We see her being aggressive. Her being defeated in a combat, needed to overcome it. Her being on top of the combat and defeating someone. Do you get what I mean? We see her crying. We see her laughing. Do we get any of that with Batman? No.
No, but like, I kind of like it.
Okay. That's the thing. All you can say is, I kind of like it.
I like it just because it's like a new take on the character. Like, I'm a bit fed up with just seeing the same crap over and over.
That's the thing. It's, in my opinion, it's not a new take on a character. You're actually taking away from the character to where he's so grimdark and moody, he's no longer a person. Which I get if he's the Batman, where Bruce Wayne
Batman
is
films
just the Batman.
Had it.
Yeah.
We've had this Batman. We had the origin, but they've told the origin before as we see Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we didn't. We skipped past the origin. I'll just say, like, they've done what Marvel did with Spider-Man when they've said, done the origin so many times, let's just skip past it, but they've done it better.
Yeah.
Marvel just didn't even acknowledge the origin. They
Which,
show it, but it was a part of the plot.
I'm glad we didn't show the origin, but that doesn't mean in a superhero film you don't establish a character. Do you get what I mean, Dan? Can you at least
They established him in this as Batman.
Yes, which I get. You can
with this, like, he has this control over the city.
Yeah, but you can do that. But then, yes, he's the Batman. But even the Batman can have several emotions. He can have several motivations, several ideas on his head at once, several character relationships.
Like the Gotham Police show.
Yeah,
they're doing. That's sort of where we're gonna get that.
But that's the thing. In a 3-hour movie, we should have at least got some of that.
The characterization in this, Catwoman, Riddler, and
yes,
Penguin.
Every single person can be one emotion in this film, except Catwoman. Batman is moody, aggressive, motivated. Penguin, comedic, and that's about it. Jim Gordon, trusting. Falcone, mob boss aggression. That's the only way you could describe it. Riddler,
to be honest, Falcone,
insane.
You don't ever have to put any effort into him.
Yeah, because
he needs to be there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Compare Falcone in this film to Kingpin in the Daredevil show, to where I could relate to Kingpin in one scene, then and watch him cry and feel bad, and then in the next scene he smashes in a guy's head, and I feel scared when he walks in the room. Do you feel that with Falcone in this film?
No, but Falcone isn't that character.
That's the thing. I feel like he should.
Falcone is lucky to have made it this far, because Falcone barely makes it. This is Batman's second year. It's probably the furthest Falcone's ever made it.
But that's the thing. In this film, it's almost like they try to portray that, where he's the killer. He will kill someone with his own bare hands. He will walk up to you and try and make you scared. But in this film, in a film like that, if Falcone was in the room with Catwoman, I should have felt like Catwoman could die in this scene. Her entire life could be ruined right now. If Kingpin walked into the room, I would. because of the characterization
The difference,
around that character.
Kingpin's a physical threat.
That's
Falcone isn't.
That's the thing. In this film, he is. He strangles, in this film, at least we know, 3 people with his bare hands.
He strangles poor defenseless innocent
Yes,
women.
but that's the thing.
Catwoman.
There's a difference between Kingpin walking in... Okay, let's get rid of the Kingpin thing. If Falcone walked into the room, I should be scared, not because he could punch her or strangle her, but because he is Falcone. He could walk into the room and ruin your life with a few words. He could get under your skin. He could make you angry.
You're too attached to Gotham, Falcone.
No, it's not even that. I don't feel anything about this. He's a villain in this film. And I don't feel...
He's one of the villains in this one.
Yes, and I don't feel anything about him. Do you get what I mean? Now, this is another point I have. I don't find this movie to be very tense. And I'm not saying there's not scenes with tension. I'm just saying where there's scenes with tension, it's never heightened to a point of uncomfortability or horror movie-esque. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the problem with rating they were going for.
I don't even... Perhaps.
We're held back by that because, well, obviously, we got a higher rating because we're in the UK, but...
Perhaps, but you can have tension in a scene just from 2 people talking. And that's why I mentioned Kingpin. He's a character who can do that. The way they characterize him and the way he's acted, if he's just talking to a character, the scene will be tense.
Yeah, but this is John Turturro they've casted.
Yes, which he's a good actor. But in this film...
Can't portray that... Like, you can't... I don't think John Turturro can portray that, like...
Well, then they
you walk into a room and you're scared of him.
That's what a mob boss...
That's probably the only casting. He's good in the role for what they've asked for him to do.
But they should have been asking more. That's what I'm saying. Everything's...
It's like...
And by the way...
Vincent D'Onofrio and Kingpin. You look at Vincent D'Onofrio, that man...
Yeah.
Can walk to a room and scare you.
Yeah. By the way, audience...
John Turturro walks into a room, you'll have a laugh with him.
Yeah. I do like this film. I don't know how much, and I am currently only focusing on the bad things because I can't really get past them to love this film, and I want to.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, tension is one of the main points I have. The most I felt tension was the first minute when you look into the darkness and you see Riddler stood behind the guy trying to elect himself as mayor. I felt tension because you don't know what's going to happen. You do, like, he could do anything right now. He kills him, and that works. But in that scene with Catwoman, where she goes to kill him, and we know he is a killer, and can turn on a dime on her, and already has a problem with her, that scene should be intense. You should be able to hear
He doesn't
a pin
really have
drop.
a problem with it, though.
Well, he clearly has some emotion towards her.
Has some emotion to it. Actually, he doesn't actually know she's his daughter, does he? Does he know?
That he doesn't. But that doesn't even matter. She is there to kill him, and he is the main mob boss, where if you kill him, it will set off a whole series of events, yeah?
Yeah.
There is, in my opinion, almost no tension in that scene. Nothing is built up to a point where I felt uncomfortable or I felt like I could hear a pin drop. Do you get what I mean? And with a lot of these points I'm making, I can't exactly tell why. You know? Like, I couldn't tell you why there's no tension in... Go on.
That scene with Catwoman and Falcone, I think, to be honest, I think it would have worked if it didn't keep cutting away to Batman doing his Batman shenanigans.
Perhaps. And maybe it was that.
It's just like, we know there's going to be no tension because Batman's cutting the lights and Batman's charging through the building.
Maybe that would have been even better if we didn't see his thing. And I would have loved it, and it would have been so good if it was just a long shot of them talking back and forth and just slowly zooming in. You know? Just slowly.
When the light...
Yeah.
I'd like...
Yeah.
And once she fires the gun, as the lights go out, it's like, how's that happened? And
So,
then it cuts to Batman.
in that scene, in my opinion, it's a flat line of tension until the lights go off, and then it sort of gets heightened because now it's a fight scene, which is going to happen
And
in
then
any
you get
fight
Batman
scene.
in darkness
But, yeah.
charging through, but you don't get any of it from Catwoman.
Exactly. If it was just that scene brought out, and in a 3-hour movie you can have a 5-minute scene of people talking back and forth, slowly chipping away at people's motivations and plans, and one person lying to the other and the other person getting hints or maybe getting deeper into the lie, and just have that scene and slowly build the pressure until there's the release of the bullet. You know? In my opinion, that would be an excellent scene, not what they've given us. Another thing of tension is I don't know who it was, the DA in the funeral with the riddles. With the bomb around his neck, and it's slowly riddles, that sort of thing. Did you feel tension in that scene, or did you like that scene, Dan?
That scene. Tension in that scene was before the thing happened.
Okay.
It's like, you don't know something's going to happen here, but you don't know where it's going to be from. Like, Batman's looking at the door, he's looking over there, he's looking over there, and where it actually comes from is where he's not looking.
Yeah. In my opinion, this is the only scene in the film that goes a little bit too fast.
Yeah.
Because he gets out the car immediately, walks over, and then it hard cuts to a bomb device going there, and then it cuts to Batman being there, then we get the riddles, and then within a minute the guy's dead.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I think it would have been great if he stepped out the car and it was a slow thing of telling him to sit down, getting, preparing. Do you get what I mean? Even if it's not
it's just Gordon evacuate the place, and then it's evacuated, and then it's Batman walks in.
And we see people reacting to it. We see him. I would love a shot of just him as he's looking around confused, and then he starts breaking down, and then we see him angry, sort of building up. And then, yet again, tension, and then there's the release as Batman enters. And then it picks up again when he answers the phone and Riddler starts talking. And as those riddles come by, I think they were so short that an audience member couldn't think about it.
Because it had to be so fast.
Yeah, but that's the thing, it didn't have to be. It could have been 30, however long you give him,
it could have just
double
been,
it. And then
he gave him, Riddler had a detonation on his end, and that's how it was worked.
Yeah, or even if you just doubled the time. So one of them was imagine if it was in the film, it was riddle, and then 1 second in the Batman going, justice, and then the guy going, what, justice? Where it could have been riddle, and then we cut to Batman's expression, seeing him working out as we hear the timer and the beeping.
Yeah,
and
he figures those out,
Yeah, and the guy starts to panic as he's seeing Batman's cluelessness in his eyes, and then it cuts to Jim Gordon being scared for a second, and then a Batman looks up and goes, justice, and then the guy goes, justice, and goes into the phone, and then the Riddler laughs, Just that scene alone of what I described feels more tense than what was in the film. And then we could get that exact shot again, but on a smaller time span as the ticking's getting faster. And then it gets to the point where the guy won't say the name of the rat. And it's slowly building up, and we keep cutting back to Jim Gordon getting tenser and tenser. Batman getting tense, Instead of just a quick scene. That's pretty much my whole standpoint on the tension in this film. Those are multiple scenes where, in my opinion, it doesn't work. It works.
The tension works when it does on its own.
Yeah, that's fair.
We don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. In my favourite part of tension is in the first act when he's fighting goons and when Riddler's killing people. And when
he's looking in the criminals are looking in the shadows.
Exactly, that's great.
One of these areas are going to get a Batman action.
In my
sequence,
opinion, that's great tension. And then my favourite bit of tension from the last bit is Batman and Riddler in Arkham.
Oh yeah, when he's shouting at him.
Yes, because there's a slow build-up in that scene. And there's multiple twists and turns where we learn...
I feel like that's their version of like the save Rachel thing from the Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this
Higher,
one possibly...
stakes.
Yeah, I think in this one it possibly works better because it's a slow build-up and then boom. And there's multiple twists and turns. Like Riddler, you learn about
Because at this point, it's at the end of the film. And it's like, it starts off with him just like Bruce Wayne, and like Batman thinks he knows who he is.
Exactly. So like I said, there's multiple twists and turns where it's like you learn about Riddler's motivation now, and you learn yet again about how Riddler's not stopped here, and how there's technically going to be like a secondary climax, and then you think he knows who Bruce Wayne is, only for it to not, and then Batman starts getting angry. That's a good scene of tension where I feel like throughout the rest, or through the big chunk of the center, there's not a lot of that.
Yeah.
That's again just my opinion.
I think that's where that scene there works better than the one in the Dark Knight. I know people love the one in the Dark Knight because I like Heath Ledger, and that's quite a good performance and everything. But in that, I didn't care about the characters they were trying to save.
Yeah.
Because in this, you don't know what... It's like, what have you done? You really don't know what he's done.
Yeah, that's fair. And while I'm on the topic, Dan, what is Riddler's motivation in this film?
It's a bit sloppy, to be honest. I'll give you that.
And I get his...
his motivation behind everybody is fine, apart from when he gets to Bruce Wayne.
Okay, that makes...
That's when he gets sloppy.
I agree as well. That also doesn't work. Of him just being like, oh yeah, Bruce Wayne's at fault. Because...
To me, that was forced personal connection.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll talk about something that we discussed while watching it. But there was a forced personal connection where he's like, I'm adopted, you're adopted, you lived better than me. If that was the theme of the film, of people living better than each other, which it could be, because we have Catwoman who is poor and struggling, who's fighting back against Falcone, who's living the high life sort of thing. Yeah. And how you get Bruce Wayne, Thomas Wayne, and then Batman fighting the poor and this. If that was the theme, great. It's not the theme, or like a running through line. And then it just becomes Riddler's motivation at the end, which is kind of strange.
So,
yeah, go on.
The whole thing with Riddler is like, at the end, when he's taken out, what is it, the first guy he takes out, the guy who's running for mayor.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, it's corruption, and he's just trying to take on corruption.
Yes. Yes.
They went for that, and he'd been like, its motivation was he'd been done wrong by the system or something. But when it gets to like the Thomas Wayne connection, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's going after Bruce Wayne, just for existing.
Now, what I would have loved, and we discussed this, in the film mentions a reporter, something Elliot. I can only remember that because it's a reference to Hush, whatever. In this film, he's attacking corruption, and then during that scene, it becomes a quick change into a broad motivation into a personal one. Which a broad one works on this plot-driven sense, and it would have been really good if the emotional connection worked. And in both of our opinions, clearly, it didn't. It would have worked if Riddler in this was that reporter's son. We discussed this during, because that was my theory. Yeah. It would have worked because then he is a mirror opposite to Batman. And I know how people are like, oh, mirror opposites, whatever. But in a Batman film, that makes sense. His villains are meant to be aspects of him. Joker is his insanity. Scarecrow is his fear. Two-Face is, like, his view on justice. Riddler is his intelligence. But then you could always do... It would have been a better emotional connection if, because of Thomas Wayne, this person went through this, but in a broad sense, he went through it because of corruption. But instead, he is an adopted kid who hates Bruce Wayne.
His motivation of So he says to Bruce, like, I don't know if he says to Batman about Bruce Wayne, I think.
Yeah.
But it's like, you should die because your father did this to us and the renewals was a lie.
Yeah.
Even though the renewals was a good thing that Thomas Wayne was trying to do.
Exactly, yeah.
Just went downhill after Thomas Wayne died.
That's why I don't think the renewal idea works. I'll get onto that. That's why if you replaced that with he got my father killed because of corruption, Falcone's involved, the mob is involved, Maroni is involved, Penguin is involved, the mayors are involved, so I've gone after all of them.
He calls Bruce Wayne a fake orphan at one point.
Yeah.
That's the point in the film when I was watching it, like,
yeah,
he still lost his parents. Just because he has money and he had Alfred, he still was suffering. He was still an orphan.
Yes. That's where...
Still lost everything.
Exactly. The Riddler's motivation, personally, and both of us, doesn't make any sense. You replace it with an emotional connection to everyone. If you make him the son of that Elliot guy, everything fits into place. Do you get what I mean?
They probably want to do Hush in a different way, in a different story. But...
That's the thing. You didn't have to. You could have combined those two characters in this to where it's a guy who has a link with the Thomas family and it's the Wayne family in a very significant way, then goes back after Batman and Bruce Wayne later on in life. You could do it perfectly, combined with Riddler in this story. Because now, his hatred of Bruce Wayne makes sense. His father's corruption got my father killed. Yeah, I was sent to an adoption home in hell itself, while when your father got killed, you spent in a penthouse. That makes sense if you change that one little thing. And obviously I'm not saying I could write this film better than Matt Reeves or direct it better or whatever.
That's the only thing I think in his writing that made it work.
Now we finally agree on this. Now while...
Yeah, that's at the end of the film when that was good, I was
yeah.
Then.
Now what you want to speak about first? The climax or renewal itself? Because we both discussed this slightly in this conversation.
Go on, whatever we're talking about.
What do you want to discuss first? Renewal or the climax?
I'll go for the renewal.
Okay.
I can remember by.
Exactly. What the fuck is renewal in this?
I think the whole idea behind it is just making the old Wayne Manor an orphanage.
It's not even that.
Just helping people.
I looked it up slightly, and what I can remember, it is a charity that was the backbone of Gotham, that the money was being used to support Gotham, but when Thomas Wayne died, it fell into Falcone's hands, making it mob money, so no poor people ever get the money. It just becomes a mob, like, money creating thing, you know?
So again, you've got the problem. Why he's gone after Bruce Wayne? Because it's just not. This isn't Thomas Wayne's fault.
Exactly.
Thomas Wayne. At this thing, Thomas Wayne is just an innocent bystander.
Yeah.
Obviously, he approached the mob and Falcone about the reporter and everything.
Exactly.
But
so
it's
in the Riddler's motivation sense, renewal is kind of like a distracting point that makes the film kind of go on longer. It's a reveal.
It was just at the end, like Batman revealed to him that his whole motivation was based on a lie.
Yeah,
the renewals.
That could have been
wasn't anything to do with that. That could have been a thing. Then at the end, maybe Riddler doesn't believe him, or maybe he's just blinded so much by what's happened to him.
Yeah. Or
that could work.
He then turns against his own motivation. That could be an interesting character point, where he's so insane, but then the reason for his sanity is flipped, and now he's remorseful. That could work. But instead we get this broad concept in a 3-hour film where it's sprinkled information through, but not in a way your brain can put it together. And then it I don't think it comes up again. It's not like, now Falcone's dead, the mayor takes over the renewal fund, and now it's going to repay Gotham, or
don't think there is a renewal fund anymore.
Exactly. They just kept mentioning it as a plot point that never really goes anywhere.
But I think the problem with Riddler is, like, speaking about Riddler as well here,
Yeah.
he works as a villain, but he just vanishes in the middle of the film.
Yeah. Which,
It starts focusing more on Penguin and the mob.
yeah. Which I'm okay with that, because then in the climax, we get a lot of Riddler. And with... Maybe there's... Now, I'll discuss this straight away. Makes sense to talk about this now. There's a lot of characters. Clearly, you're a 3-hour film, that's fine. There's a lot of characters where nothing is backing them. They don't have an emotion. They don't have character thing. Like, we have Jim Gordon, Batman, Penguin, Falcone. Well, the one problem I have in this film...
Jim Gordon has a personal connection.
Yes, that's fair enough. I'm just going to mention the characters.
Established that early on.
Yeah. Then we have a cop by name, Martinez. We have the mayor. We have the commissioner. Then there's another guy who works in the police. I can't even remember the name of. Who's on Jim Gordon's back during the where Jim Gordon gets punched by Batman.
The guy who has the broken nose.
Well, not even...
No, different
there's
guy.
a different guy. So it's the guy with the broken nose, and there's Penguin, and there's Falcone, and there's Maroni.
I think it's the guy who takes over as, like, temporary commissioner when the commissioner dies.
But that's the thing. There's so many characters in this that every time a new one comes up, they kind of... They all blend into one in my head, as well as just prove the point
Police, I have the problem. The police tend to blend together, but that tends to happen a lot in these types of films.
But that's the
just because they look similar.
Yeah, and that's fine. But you didn't need to introduce several characters over and over and over again, and then...
One side, like, Martinez was... I reckon Martinez was fine being there because he was that... He was that cop who was left behind and looking after the scene when Batman shows up, and sort of thing. Jim Gordon, the commissioner, he has to die, the replacement commissioner...
I personally feel like it's not needed. The fact that you keep throwing all these characters in, and in my opinion, like I've said, we haven't even established Batman properly. So in my point of view, we haven't established Jim Gordon, we haven't established Batman correctly, barely established Catwoman, haven't established Alfred yet, and then we keep throwing in characters, as well as, my big problem, we keep mentioning Maroni. He is a background plot.
He doesn't appear in this.
Yeah, he doesn't appear.
Is he dead or is he in prison?
I think he's in prison, and that may be what the Gotham show...
I thought he was dead.
See? Who knows? He doesn't appear, and he doesn't... Yes, he has a big thing about this film, but he is mentioned so much that the name Falcone and Maroni became one in my head halfway through this film.
It's just your dumbass dyslexic head.
It's not even that. It's the fact that...
It wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah, that's fair. But they keep mentioning several names of mob bosses over and over and over again. And it's, you did this, no, you did this, and this. That after a while, all the characters, I was kind of like, oh, I don't care whose face I'm seeing anymore on screen.
Really just Maroni and Falcone's the one who shows up.
Yeah, that's it. But during the dialogue, so many names are said, like DA this, Mayor blank, blah this,
that has to be there because they're victims.
Yeah, that's the thing. But in one sentence...
But that's to show the corruption.
Yeah, but in one sentence, they'll say 6 names, and 3 of them would have just been introduced in that sentence alone. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, that's just talking about the corruption. That's just showing the corruption. They're not actually important characters.
Yeah, but by the end of it, it's like, I can't even remember who's important to this plotline anymore.
They could just say, like, the police captain or the commissioner and the DA.
Yeah, but everyone has a specific name. And when I think about it, I'm like, oh, we did see that character inevitably. But it was never pointed out, and that's just a character thing. And while we're on the topic of characters, I'm getting into a sort of...
I think that's just your personal problem, because it didn't bother me at all.
That's fair.
It just helped develop the world a bit more.
In my opinion, there's a difference between developing the world and being expository about characters that aren't necessary to know the name of, to know who their face is, to know this, that, and the other, how they fit into... A character, in my opinion, shouldn't really fit into a plot if we never see them, or if we never get any characterization about them. Do you get what I mean? It's that's a personal thing. Maybe if you have a problem,
But that's just your personal point.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me whatsoever.
yeah, that's why I kind of want to put out there. If anyone else kind of had the issue, maybe
This
say
is what a
something,
fandom should be. I'm not going to insult him because his opinion's wrong.
You did assault me.
Yeah, but that was just when you were being dyslexic with names.
No, that's the thing. I don't even feel like it was that. It's just they were like, "Oh yeah, Maroney did this." No, actually, it was Falcone. It's a weird thing I felt during the film where I was like,
And that was just when they were trying to figure stuff out.
yes,
Just fine. For me, it's fine because it just
yeah.
shows them figuring out and like different twists
Yeah.
and like who did this, who did that.
But the fact we
And
never,
yeah, like how it
Yeah.
confused people.
the fact that we never seen Maroney, and in my opinion, Falcone was barely a character. That, yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where it's like,
I understand what you're saying. It just didn't bother me at all.
yeah, that's fine. While we're talking about characters, I need more of Alfred in this film. He is in like 3
I think
scenes.
Alfred wasn't in this film that much, simply because Andy Serkis was directing Venom 2.
But that's the thing. He's Andy
Honestly, I
Serkis.
think that's the only reason.
You make time.
I like him as Alfred.
I don't. Thing is, I don't even know. I feel like I haven't seen enough of him to make an opinion about him.
I thought they were going to kill Alfred.
Exactly. In this film, everyone thought that. I've watched many reviews, many spoiler talks, many discussions, and a lot of people said, I thought Alfred could have been killed. And you know why people thought that? And I'm not trying to force
He
opinions
wasn't in
or
the
thoughts.
advertisement at all, and he was barely in the film.
Not even that. I don't think that's like a meta sense. But in the film, you don't get enough of the character, and you don't feel like Alfred's important enough on Bruce Wayne's life in this film that he could die, and it wouldn't
You
affect
don't
anything.
get that till after he's had his like near-death experience.
Yeah. The most hint of that is when he's talking about "I trained you." There's that little line, and then there's the hospital scene.
Now, maybe we should have read the prequel comic.
I don't even think
Maybe it
that
would have made
is
this
just-
film better.
Well, all it says is about Alfred in it is just that he trained him as Bruce Wayne, which, sure, I can assume that just by that one line. But then, in this film, Alfred is not really given a character. He doesn't have a
Not much of a
motivation.
presence.
Exactly. That's a big problem I have with a lot of the
Does
characters in there.
Push Batman's investigation forward a bit at the start.
Yeah. Which
I
is,
like how it
which is
shows
fine.
that it's not just Bruce Wayne doing the detective work. Alfred is actively involved in this as well.
Exactly, and that comes from a thing of it being plot driven, to where what is the character doing in the scene? He's driving the plot. What do I know about this character? Literally fucking nothing.
But this is sort of like, is Alfred, you know what Alfred is? He's Batman's brother.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can't because you can't do that, but then have a different stylized Batman where he's just moody and he's not Bruce Wayne and he's not this. But then you can't look at another character and go, no, you know that character, it's fine. When you're changing characters. Do you get what I mean? That could be a
But
personal
the
thing, of course,
Alfred
yeah.
and Batman connection is just always something that's
Yeah.
that's just never going to change.
But that's the thing.
Couldn't get away with that.
In the comics and other films, it's Bruce Wayne needs Alfred, kind of treats him like dirt and doesn't respect his opinions towards Batman. But then there's an underlying I love Alfred. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. In this, you get like Alfred like does talk to him about like you're getting hurt out there. You need to take a break. You need this. Like Alfred always does.
Yes.
And he
But-
also helps him. I think
The-
he helps him, so he gives him that break.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen an Alfred that I don't feel for, or I don't understand why they're still there. I don't understand this. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
The most is when it's
Hopefully,
like,
we get more of him in like sequels and stuff. But
that's the thing. That's the main. It's not
So-
me getting angry with you, by the way. That's the main thing I hate. I don't want to watch a sequel to learn about this character who was in the first film. I want to get a sense of who. This is a weird point. and I may go off on a bit of a tangent. When I'm going to be discussing Doctor Who, okay? When
God.
the Doctor changes into a new actor in the first season, first couple of episodes, maybe the first scene itself, you need to establish who that character is. Do you get what I mean? Because they all play it differently. And with Peter Capaldi's, you get pretty quickly until he starts evolving, which is fine. David Tennant, you get it almost immediately. Jodie Whittaker, you don't get it, even though she's had like 3 seasons. Because there's not enough characterization, and that's what I felt like it was for every single one of the characters in this film. That's my opinion, but there you go.
I think the main thing with, like, obviously what everybody wanted from this film was, which is what we got, which was Batman film. He's being a detective.
Yes.
It got that aspect, they nailed that down perfectly, I think.
That, yeah.
But doing that,
I completely
you have to
agree.
have the time. You have to sacrifice some things. So I don't think you can do Batman detective with telling a good detective story and giving good characterization to every character.
I can agree with that. Except it was a 3-hour film where you had 100 characters that you could have scrapped maybe 1 or 2 ideas. Maybe we didn't need to know about this new mayor, where it doesn't really come up heavily in the plot until the climax.
New mayor isn't really anything. She's just there to get injured.
We don't need
She's there for someone to protect in the end.
Yeah, we don't need to have Penguin and Falcone. You're like both sharing a scene presence. We don't need a Maroney as this overlying thing. We don't need 2 commissioners. We don't need Jim Gordon as well as another policeman that we know. We don't need Catwoman. And this is a thing I was even mad about during the film. The film wants us to feel for Catwoman. And it kind of does, because she's, in my opinion, one of the characters with the most characterization. The main problem, we never see her interact with her friend.
Yeah, we get it briefly at the start.
Do you?
Yeah, she does walk into the apartment and there is an interaction between them.
No, that is bullshit. They maybe have one line and then it's over. That's not establishing a relationship. That's showing
the main thing there is talk to each other, and then she mentioned the girlfriend. Is it girlfriend or is it just friend? I don't know.
No, it doesn't matter.
Mentions that she's having some problems. A woman says she'll deal with it. But then it cuts to Batwoman. It cuts to Batwoman, Batman watching him outside. It's a bit creepy.
That scene is plot driven. She's telling Catwoman stuff about the plot so then she can get involved. But then later in the film, when she's crying, you're like, oh, there's meant to be emotion behind this. But
they push that.
Yeah.
Or her reaction to her being dead.
I would have loved if we got 1 or 2 scenes with her and her friend. Maybe we zoom into that flat and there's a scene between Catwoman and her friend, and her friend's crying and Catwoman's trying to be the backbone for her. She doesn't really know how, but then she gets into the flow and then she starts getting angry and then she runs out when she learns about the passport being taken and goes out and does something about it. And then we find her corpse.
Because I might have just missed this, but I don't know why she's going all Catwoman until it happens.
It's to steal from
it's
Falcone.
To steal the passport.
No, it's to steal the passport.
Do we find that out until after she's had her encounter with Batman? Do we know it before that?
Yeah, that's the thing as well. It wasn't said during that scene, I don't think. So that's why I'm saying a scene in between.
Unless I just wasn't paying that much attention.
But we both were there, so like, and I didn't really hear.
I know, but you clock out sometimes.
See, you're attacking me. How dare you? Yeah, I would have loved to see a scene between them where it shows both their ranges of emotion, their friendship. So when she finds the corpse, we freeze on her for a second as the life drains from her, she tears up, and then they all get shot. Instead of, the body's there, boom, 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 you know?
Yeah.
It tried to be
It cuts to an epic Batman chase.
It tried to be incredibly plot driven while having moments of emotional moments without any of the characteristic backbone to anyone. You know? Then we learned about Catwoman's mother and the connection, and then she gets sad again, and I'm like, I want to feel for this character because it's the only character showing me any emotion other than broody plot drivenness, you know? But there isn't scenes to back that up. That's see, now this is
you're getting annoyed.
As I'm getting long, I'm like, as I'm going further and further on through this video, which I hope people are at least enjoying, and even if they do disagree with me, they can kind of see where I'm coming from. Because I am getting annoyed as I'm like, they could have done stuff to maybe get it better. And not better.
Jump to the positives in a minute.
I've still got some points, trust me. We will jump to the positives in a bit.
This can be a long one.
Yes. Like, to do with what I just said, I wish there was added scenes put in, or just lines said to hint towards the climax. There are plenty of films where there's a secondary climax, and they usually can work quite well. I don't feel like it works in this. Yes, we have the mayor being set up. That is through the plot. Is the floodgates mentioned once before that climactic scene?
Might have been.
I don't think it was. Maybe it was said during the mayor's thing, but for it to be such a pivotal point in the film, it needed to be mentioned to the point where I understood. Because when it was like, I've parked vans all around, I was like, oh, they're going to do the bridges collapse again. And then he was like, I'm breaking the floodgates. I'm like, well, that hasn't been mentioned. That hasn't been hinted towards. Where in a detective movie, it should have been hinted towards, even by the Riddler himself, but then Batman doesn't get it until the last possible second. Do you get what I mean?
Does he reference? I think it's in like one of the maps he gives him, in it. Like all the points are there.
Yes. But that happens, and then 5 minutes later we learnt about why. If for whatever reason, let's say one of the DAs was in charge of the, I don't know, the floodgate renewal, whatever, and he was killed beforehand, you know? And then that's a huge clue that Batman never grasps, just because that's something interesting in the character where he failed at that point, you know? Even if it was hinted towards about the ceremony taking place at the Gotham Gardens, you know? If we seen, or if there was clues that Riddler was setting up groups of people to think. And I do like the bit where people are in a crowd and they've got the sign of the Riddler. That does set it up. But what if we see people in Riddler outfits? What if we maybe hear about a copycat? You know?
The setup we get for that is the fact that they constantly mention that he has all these followers, and
yes, which is,
he has an active following and people are supporting him on these online platforms he uses.
You're mixing it up now, because that
don't mention that they don't mention that they're supporting him. They do mention that he has these followers.
Yeah. Yet again, Dan, that was said 10 minutes before the climax. I know the exact scene when they
beforehand though that he has this following.
Yeah, and that's
been shown it.
Yeah, that's through the group holding the sign and stuff.
We got it in the scene. The
what?
What's his name? The car crashes through that scene. Got a thing showing that he has followers and he has these people supporting him there.
Yeah, that's one scene. I'm just saying, for it being a climax and a detective thing, there should have been more sprinkled throughout. Because for me, that climax, other than the only part about that climax I really love, is both the characters all coming together, Jim Gordon, Catwoman, and Batman,
all teaming up
fighting.
at the end.
Yes. And also,
you made the same mistake I did.
Yeah. And then Batman at the end being accepted by these people, saving numbers of people, people looking up to him not through fear, but through sort of appreciation. That works, but then the whole thing around it doesn't truly work, in my opinion. But
climax, like that fight, it did feel like this is just here, so we can have a Batman fight.
exactly, and
I prefer like the first climax, just because it's more.
That's the thing.
The film had ended with like the floodgates being taken down. I wouldn't have minded.
That's where I thought it was going to end, but then there's another hour to the film.
It's just like Batman like shouting, "What have you done?" and then comes go off, city's flooded, film ends. I'd have been fine with that.
Yeah. That's the thing as well. I don't feel like them finding the Riddler had enough intensity to it, or tension again. Because it's a detective, and you found the killer. You found him. This is the whole plan for the film. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm now stopping a mass shooting. It's like, there's a little bit of a cross connect. Did you get confused at the plot at any point during this film, Dan?
Not really, no.
Okay, I'm only saying that, and this yet again comes to the names and the renewal idea and Riddler's motivation. At some point,
things that didn't bother me really.
Yeah, at some point I was kind of like, "What? How does this connect to that?" But not in a good way. We're like, "Oh, I want to find out." I'm like, "No, I feel like I've missed something." And then there's one line where I have to go, okay, and then I catch up again.
Yeah.
And yet again, I think that's from multiple plot points, multiple names, whatever. Now, this is going to be a short discussion. Was that Joker scene needed? Yes or no?
I think it was just a fun addition, to be honest.
And I was hoping that, during the film, I was hoping we get more clues. More little, we see blank in this cell, or whatever. But then,
I was hoping we get a scene where he goes to Arkham in the investigation, to be honest. But
yeah, I would have loved that as well. And you could have even done like the Halloween where you introduce Calendar Man, but he's behind glass and he's the silencer. That could work, you know.
Obviously didn't get it.
Yeah,
and that's because this story's happening so early in his career. It's like hasn't got that road gallery or anything.
He has fought the Joker.
Yeah, but has he?
Yes, the director has admitted that in the past, which you may deal with that in the Gotham show.
This is a Joker that hasn't become the Joker yet.
Yeah, he's not the Joker, but he has had dealings with Batman. So it's
just
kind
a
of
random guy, probably the Batman is just given the boom to.
Yeah, but that scene, the film almost screeches to a halt because every scene in this film is important. Adds to the plot, except this scene, where I
think it's just
it adds to a plot for another movie or a show. Why isn't this the post credits? So it doesn't come to the film doesn't have to stop.
When does this shot happen? Is it like right at the end, or is it just before the climax?
It's just before the climax.
Maybe it should have been a post credits.
Yes, because it just stops, and there's nothing I want to say to that other than just that.
Just a fun addition. Be there, but
it does stop the film, in my opinion. Now, this is a problem I had that sounds stupid, but just carry it on, okay? Just listen to me for a good 5 minutes.
Pathetic nitpicking problems again.
Yes. This Batman... Okay, how am I going to put this? I never found this Batman cool or badass at any point. Okay? You can argue with this after I've made my points. Firstly, I'm going to discuss how he looks during the film.
You have a problem with the cowl, don't you?
I have a problem with the cowl, just the way it forms to the head and the eyes. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. For me, it kind of made close-up shots look awkward. But that's not my main problem with this. In There's only one shot in this film, and that's at the end, when his cape flows in the wind. It's a very nitpicky point.
Right at the end.
Very nitpicky. Like, yeah. Every scene where Batman is on the top of that building with the bat signal, his cape never flows. He never feels like he has... The only time... Okay, he has presence in scenes when he's fighting, when he's talking about the kills or the riddles, or when he's stepping out the shadows. But then you can go from those scenes to then the scenes where he's on the roof, and he just feels like a guy in a suit. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think the cape flowing is needed to make him...
No, but that's the thing. In those scenes, he doesn't feel like he has presence. So, but if you added that flowing cape, and you maybe added more characterization to him, I'd be like, oh, Jim Gordon's dealing with something here, or like, he could win, he could... It's a very nitpicky point. It's just a small issue
it's very
I
nitpicky.
had. Yes. But it's a small thing I noticed that would add a lot on a character point of view level. This is where my literature analysis is coming through, and I kind of want to take apart every point and just think about it. Because during some scenes he has big presence, and then other scenes he doesn't, which would be interesting if it was in a way that added to his character. Like, in some situations he has a lot of presence, but in other situations his presence is very low and personal. But it's not that. It's just... It's interesting. This is another one. Every time we see him on his bat bike, other than the end of the film, he is wearing normal clothes.
Yeah.
I
think I said to you at one point, does he just tuck his cape in the backpack?
There's moments during this film where I'm like, this could have been cooler by just having Batman here. You know? Yeah. And yes, I wanted to see more Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't really feel like a Bruce Wayne.
When he's like riding his bike, he like... I think the suit's underneath there, and like he places like the cowl with like the helmet or something.
But I'm watching...
It's more for like going over it.
But I don't feel like that's needed, especially when he's hiding in shadows and driving into alleyways and hiding, you know?
He's driving along like following Catwoman and...
Yeah. But even then, him just having the black batsuit on, and even if he has a helmet over the top of it and the cape flowing in the wind, how much of a better visual would that be than just a guy on a bike following someone?
Yeah, but it would take away from like, it'd be like, well, if there's a guy behind you and he's got a big cape on and you can see it's flapping in the wind, he's not really hiding, is he?
That doesn't even... In the scene, I don't think it would matter. Because no one turns around at any point. No one notices the bike. And we see, in the same film, people wearing crazy costumes. People wearing skull face paint. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. It's set at Halloween. So you could have got away with that.
And it's the thing where... Yeah, again, Batman never felt cool to me during this film. Because during that scene, you could take it out the film and go, this is a Jason Bourne movie. This is a Mission Impossible movie. This is a Taken movie. That's Liam Neeson on that bike. Do you get what I mean? It just feels like a bog standard action movie. While during this scene, I want to see Batman work. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
It's very nitpicky. But
yeah, but it's a bunch of whatever. It's a bunch of points that take me out of the film, which are all under one category sort of thing. Do you get what I mean? Where all of these points, like the no cape, the fact we never see Batman do any like cool things, or even have presence in scenes, and that when I say cool, I mean cool in the sense of he is Batman. Cool as in a sense as he has presence. Like, when he's on that bike, he is just a guy on a bike. But if you see him wearing the gloves and tightening the gloves to rev up the bike, and you see the cape flowing in the wind sort of thing, that's presence in every scene. You know, it's just a thing.
That's nitpicky, but I'll allow it.
Yes. Someone who's smarter than Dan will understand where I'm coming from. Because they'll understand...
Look, it doesn't matter. He's being covert. It doesn't matter that he doesn't have a cape and he doesn't have presence in every scene.
But, in a film...
A film that's 3 hours, Batman doesn't need presence in every scene.
Well, then, no one has any presence in any scene, except from Riddler. Which, yes, he's the villain, but you've got Batman, Falcone, Penguin, this, that, and the other. I want at least the main character, who is Batman himself, to feel important in scenes. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying in every scene he needs to look badass and cool, but I need to get the... Making him have a presence adds to the characterization of him. And during this film, I don't feel that ever. And if I got instead emotional scenes with Batman, or scenes where we learn about him, maybe I wouldn't be saying I want him to have presence. I want him to feel badass. You know?
Yeah.
Now, this is a point as well that adds to this. How do you feel about the fighting during this film?
I like it.
Okay. That's
I know
fine.
you've said to me before you have problems with it.
Yes. I have problems with it because it feels slow to me. If you compare it to... It's trying to be Daredevil while having badass moments. You know? Like him venoming himself, or him rolling, like jumping, flying through the air, rolling, taking out people as he rolls on the floor, and then kicking them off buildings and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
They try to have the brutality of Daredevil and the awesome fight scenes of Ben Affleck Batman. And in my opinion, they achieve neither.
They try to be Ben Affleck.
Yes. But... Yes, he gets beaten a bit, but it's never given any... You see him get hit, but you never see the anger in his face as he gets hit. You never see his facial expression be painful, you know? You never see him then get angry and hit the guy maybe too hard, and then go lighter on the next guy, showing some character to him. And then the badass moments are taken away from the fact that, yes... we don't see any blood in this, and I would have liked to have seen blood.
It's not needed.
In my opinion, it is. In the scenes...
It's not really needed.
Now, this is opinion. In the scenes where Batman is injured, the only sense you get of that is he can't stand up.
Yeah. You do get the bruising, like when he's out of costume.
You get the bruising and the scars, but during that end scene, he's taken... shotgun shells, rifle bullets, and it gets to the point where he has to take like venom to just survive. But I would have loved to have seen maybe a slight bit of blood on him, maybe some slight bit of blood oozing out of his suit, because we barely see bullet holes in his suit. So during that scene, I'm like, why are you laying on the floor? And he doesn't
shot in the chest.
Yeah, but he doesn't look winded. In the Daredevil show, if he gets hit, you then see him stumble and like take a breath in and then hit again. You know?
Yeah.
But in that, he just can't stand up and is dizzy. There's a thing from the visual storytelling of the scene itself and why stuff is happening. There's a bit of a disconnect in my mind. You know?
Yeah.
They're trying to get the brutality of Daredevil where they won't show how brutal that is, you know? Like when he hits someone, we never see a close-up of the guy, like, spitting everywhere as he's hit, you know?
That's age rating stuff. They've been capped at an age rating. That's why they haven't been able to do that.
But then don't go for the brutality. Do you get what I mean? If you can't show something all the way, lean on
They
the badass
show the
aspect.
heart. You gotta like. It doesn't have to be blood to show that someone's injured.
No, it doesn't. Okay, what I'm saying is that the blood is a very small aspect of my point. They don't show how injuries affect anyone while trying to do a badass scene. Do you get what I mean? Well, he is lying on his back and he can't get up. He is dizzy. That's it. He's not winded. He doesn't look like he's been hurt from a visual thing. You know, if you looked at him, you wouldn't be like, oh, he can't even stand up right now. That's how much pain he's in. Do you get what I mean?
You just get like the sort of mouth, like facial expressions,
Yeah.
like that shows he's been hurt.
But we've seen from other stuff, with just that alone, you can show someone in pain. We've seen Daredevil without half of his face, and you can tell when that man is in pain. You know?
Yeah.
And by the way...
Well, the thing with Batman gets hit at the end, and then he's just down. Like,
yeah.
next time you see him move, really, is when he boosters himself up.
Yeah. And then he's no longer in pain. Which I'm like... There's just a disconnect in my mind.
Like,
yeah.
That's probably just he's still juiced up the whole time.
Yeah. But that's the thing. In my mind, it's like there's a disconnect from the action we're seeing and then how characters are reacting to that action, either happening to them or... Do you understand? So the blood is just a...
My assumption with it is just Batman we're seeing is just a Batman that... Obviously he's injured. Like, we see him, like, with that scene where he's walking around, he's got shit off, he's covered in bruises.
Yes.
I just seen it as a Batman who's been out in the streets for like over 2 years now.
Yeah.
He's just been hit so much, he's just fighting through the pain now. That's just what he goes for.
But I would be okay with that. Like him fighting through the pain. But in that scene, he is dropped and he can no longer fight through that pain.
And that's like...
Yeah. And
show, like, his suit's not indestructible.
Yeah.
Obviously we've seen
exactly.
that he is,
but I would love to get that shot and zoom in on his face. Can you tell that he's in pain? Can you tell that he's in so much pain that he can no longer stand?
I'd have to rewatch the film to check.
Exactly.
But
and it's like...
Can't really remember.
If you look at his suit, it doesn't show that it was in that much pain. There's just a disconnect during the fighting. Oh, there's lots of points.
This is your nitpicky problems again. That I can just look through and it doesn't bother me.
That's the thing. But all these points I'm making, in my mind, create a huge problem with this film. I am disconnected from this film. That's why I don't think I have an opinion. I am so disconnected.
Like in the middle.
Yeah. I am so disconnected from the characters, from individual scenes, to his presence or Batman itself, to all the characters, to people's motivations, to the plot itself, that I can't give a good opinion about this film. Do you understand? And then my final point, we unintentionally laughed in a lot of points of this film. we simply did. And I don't think the director wanted us to laugh in those moments.
Like when Batman punched Gordon.
Well, that's fine. Yes, that...
It was meant to be serious and we laughed at it, but...
Yeah, that should have been done seriously, because that is a thing of...
I think me and you just laughed because we predicted it.
Yeah,
but...
it should have been heightened tension where the cops are about to ambush him and they've got to talk fast, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's an explosive. And then where he gets onto the roof. Yeah, I hate the flight suit, but it's a whatever. I can get past it, kind of. But then that bit where he clips the bridge and then hits the ground.
Wasn't needed.
We laughed in that moment. We laughed hard, and so did other people.
I think that was their little attempt at comedy.
We've seen their attempt in comedy in this film through Penguin and You Have a Lot of Cats. You know, we did laugh at those bits, good. But it's a...
I don't know why that was there.
I'm okay with that. Because people are complaining about this film.
I guess it just shows he's still learning, I guess, but...
No, I'm not okay with the flights thing. yes, you can show that he's still learning, but we should feel for him in that moment. Don't make it be a comedy where he hits that and then hits this, hits that and then falls, rolls, and then the audience laughs. It should be he takes one huge hit, lands on the ground, and then he stays there for a second, and we're like, oh shit, is he okay? And then it slowly zooms on his face as he stands up, showing that he's in pain. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the movie Joker, where during
Gets hit by the car.
that, or even scenes where if you described it to someone like Joker walking back into a room and punching the shit out of the clock out machine, and he says the line, I better clock out, or I almost forgot to clock out. If you described that to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's funny as hell, I'd laugh at that. But during the scene, all you felt was uncomfort. All you felt was sad for this character. Or not even sad, just the insanity coming off of him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I wish I felt that when Batman was getting hit. You know? I should have been like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, that's going to get him angry. That's going to hurt him physically and emotionally to the point... Do you get what I mean? Yet again, there's a disconnect that makes me not have an opinion about this film. So let's finally talk about stuff we do like about this film. Dan, you can go ahead as I like.
Been an hour already.
Calm down. My apologies. This is just me trying to give an essay worth of critique about this film that I just need to get off my chest. So let's talk about some good stuff,
To be honest,
shall we?
you got to talk about the positives because you've just rinsed everything.
Okay.
What do you like about this?
Catwoman, I like. Jim Gordon, okay. I was about to start talking
To say
negatives
love
again.
and then hesitate.
Yes. I like Jim Gordon, that he's trusting, that he will go against the police. On a basic level, this feels like Commissioner Gordon from the comics. There's no character to back that up, and there's no emotion behind it, but I like him. Penguin, I like. We don't see a lot of character development on him.
Yeah, it's very minor.
But I do like what we see with the humour, and he is scary in some moments. He does have... Yeah, I like the Penguin. Okay, you talk about stuff you like about this.
Well, I like the whole film, to be honest, but...
Okay, why? Why do you like the film?
Everything that you've just rinsed into... I like this detective.
Yeah, so do I.
For about damn time.
That's a point... That's a bullet point I have. The detective plot. I love it. I love the idea of all of this. The plot is great.
Been told before we're getting detective, and I was honestly expecting it to be like, we've been told the Dark Knight's going to be detective, and he just uses some like gadgets in this.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to actually get it, but we did, and I think it worked.
Yeah, I love the detective plot in this. Is there anything else you can think about off the top of the head that you love?
Penguin was good.
Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah.
He worked for what he was meant to be.
Yeah.
And he looked great. I give him that. He looked great.
I know, I could barely tell that was Colin Farrell.
Only like in some scenes where like I paid close attention, I could tell.
Now, this is something you won't talk about because you're a little art scrub.
Oh.
I love the shot direction in this film alone. You won't care about that, but how the shots are put together and some of the scenes itself could just be screenshotted and then taken out.
I think you said it when we were watching the film after Penguin's car's been flipped.
Yes, and it's upside down and it's glorious. And I'm going to talk about a negative again. And then he walks up to the cat and pokes his head through the door, and I laughed.
We didn't need that.
What would have been sick is all of a sudden the door bursts open and we watch Penguin get dragged out the cat and Batman is angry in his face. Not like a Looney Tunes-esque moment that took me out of the film again. Yeah. So we've talked about the bad.
There are things I would have taken out of this. But
yes, exactly. And for me, there's so many...
2 hours and 50 minutes instead of 2 hours and 55.
For me, there's so many moments of that take me up the film. And I do apologise for that. I wish I loved this film. I went into it wanting to love this film. and I just don't. And that's a problem. So let's talk about, as just an end cap, where's this franchise going, Dan? Where's Robert Pattinson's The Batman?
I could see this, like, obviously they're going to milk this to high hell.
Yeah, of course.
I hope they don't connect to the DCEU. I feel like they're going to. I hope they don't.
I feel like they won't, just because they're introducing Michael Keaton's. And they're clearly running with that, with him being in The Flash and then Batgirl. Yeah.
I could definitely see this being like a world that focuses on Batman, on like his rogues.
Yeah.
But then also like in the future, like delves into like the Bat family and like keeps it very Batman oriented.
Yeah. I would love to see that more than anything else. Kind of like being like...
I would love it if like we get this Batman actually like has a few Robins across his history, and
yeah, that could be cool.
They obviously want to do spin-offs, and like we get like Dick Grayson introducing him, go off on his own, and then Jason Todd and the death of him, and then Red Hood.
So what spin-offs are planned, Dan?
At the moment, okay,
there's 3, isn't there? There's 3 shows that are going to be coming out?
No, I looked into it today. Gotham PD and the Arkham one are actually the same.
Okay.
Started off as the Gotham PD, and apparently, Mario said when they were looking into making it, he wanted to lean more into Arkham. Yeah,
and isn't that going to be in the past? Like Batman Year 1?
It's meant to be Batman Year 1, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like to see
I think
the
would
Joker
give
or the
this film
Joker,
more of a backbone.
Yeah.
I think we couldn't get that without... Couldn't get Year 1 spoiling a lot of like the twists and everything in this film.
Theoretically, yeah. I would love to see... now, this is a quick... what I'd want the plot to be. Set from Jim Gordon's point of view, hopefully get a character around him. We get his
I don't
wife.
think Jim Gordon's the main character.
He should be. Fuck whoever else is going to be it. Jim Gordon should be the main character.
Martinez.
Martinez, my favourite. Jim Gordon should be the main character. With Barbara Gordon, his wife, you get his story from Year 1 as he's being introduced to Batman. And his wife has a kid. It can be Barbara Gordon. It could be a good way
to introduce Barbara Gordon, the kid.
Yeah. And then, so it's Batman Year 1 with him going after just starting it. Robert Pattinson's in it a little bit. And then the main thing...
Yeah, you'd probably be in it briefly.
Yeah. The main plot is the Maroni bringing, like, Jim Gordon bringing down
that Maroni thing, yeah.
Yes. And you
can't really have Jim Gordon a part of that, because he wasn't a part of that. He was a part of the case.
Yeah.
But they say that, but he wasn't.
You can do it as... He's not the one who brought down Maroni. Someone else is. But he's the aspect that is connecting Maroni and Batman. You know? Like, he's the thing. And I would love it to be, Maroni is doing his whole drug supply thing. And he's created, like, a legion. And you see Falcone and Penguin be under him.
Yeah.
You know? And that shows that
you see the Falcone betrayal and everything.
Yes. That could be fun. And he has
I think Falcone was always above him, but that doesn't matter.
Well, it's point in many...
They mentioned that Falcone's run the city for like 25 years.
Yeah. Which it might be that Maroni was taken down 25 years ago. You know?
It was very clearly taken down last year, but...
Was it? Like,
it was pretty obvious that it was like last year or like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
very recent.
That's fine. It can be like whatever. It can be Falcone, that whole thing. But Maroni being taken down, and then he has like gang members, and they just call them the Red Hoods. You know? And then one of them is attacked by Batman, and then the last shot of the entire show is that one thug standing up and then laughing. And then it cuts away. That's just what I want. I want some Red Hood action in here, because we've never seen a live-action Red Hood gang.
But briefly in Gotham.
That's true, but that sucks, because that's just people wearing a balaclava. Okay. So what other show are we getting from this?
Penguin.
And isn't that his rise to power after this film?
I don't know I think it says rise to power.
Yeah.
But also sort of his origin in flashback sort of thing.
Good. I want some characterization to these people. And I'd love to see...
I think it's a show.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
I'm yeah, I'm happy to see this because I kind of want. It's obviously going to be a power vacuum, but I want other people to be mentioned because of this. Maybe
Because obvious at the end that Penguin's going to be the one who rises to power and
Yeah.
takes charge. They would kind of make that obvious with him
Which-
looking out the window. and
which makes
everything.
sense. Exactly that.
He
And-
is his right hand. He would be the one who would take.
Yeah, exactly. But you could see him start making connections with a Harvey Dent. You know, even if it's just a line, or he has a
I hope it's not like these two shows could have very easily just been two different. Gotham did just split into
Yeah.
two shows.
Yeah. But I kind of like that it's one prequel, one sequel. I think it works. And I'd love it to be like, he has a, what's it called? Like a henchman who is Black Mask. He's not wearing a black mask. But if we wanted to do Black Mask, whatever.
What's his name? It's like they call him Roman or something.
Exactly. He brings in an accountant who was the
You
same
could see
name.
gang rivalry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I would love to see
Like,
that.
you could see like the Black Mask, like he has his own gang.
I would love to see.
He's like the rival.
Yeah, Black Mask would be great. Or who's another gang member? Or even if in this you bring it the Red Hood gang, you know, and they work under Black Mask. You know, I would love to see in this, like, I would love to see Scarface, like the ventriloquist, be involved. Because how good would that be as a reveal to a Batman film? You know, you don't see ventriloquist all the way up until this point, but there is a guy who's not taking out gang members, but is blowing up Gotham City, is taking over Penguin's control, and Penguin has to team up with not like team up physically, but start working with Batman to take down this bigger guy because they know he will end up blowing up the city if he wins, you know? And then the reveal is it's an old man in a dark room, and then he puts his hand in front of the light and it's a doll strapped to it, you know? I could feel like that would work in this film, so I'm just like, set up as much as you can, which will build excitement around this, so hopefully it doesn't stop and we get a, like, Tom Holland Spider-Man, where it's like, this could go on for 12 films, who fucking knows at this point.
You know they're going to try and get Robert Pattinson still for as long as possible.
Exactly. Which would be good if it remained with Matt Reeves, and loads of people have loved this film and praise it for being realistic, detective thing.
A lot of the praise, I think people are just liking it just for liking its sake.
Yeah.
Because it's not DCEU and they hate that.
Yeah,
But
which is fair. But as long as it's
this was in the DCEU, it would be being hated just for its existence.
I guess. If it remains Matt Reeves' vision, I think Robert
I think he
Pattinson
is
and everyone will
behind
stay on and stuff, you know?
Everything at the moment.
Good. And I want him to go into other things and stuff.
I think like it's the same thing like DC's doing with James Gunn. They're just giving him freedom.
Which is good. Because then we're getting a lot of directed and writer-driven films and stuff that
This is
people are
what he
clearly
was.
enjoying.
This is the world he wants to build. This is what he wants to
Yeah.
tell. You don't like it, that's on you.
What could you see for a sequel to
A
the
sequel.
Batman? Yeah.
We'll mention it now as well. Apparently, there's a rumored Catwoman thing.
That could be interesting.
Would
I
make
guess.
sense with how they left it. She's leaving Gotham, so
Yeah, but what would that story be for her?
it'll probably just be her having something happen. I don't know. She's
I
in
guess.
Bloodhaven now, isn't she?
With the birds of prey, she meets Huntress. Wow.
Getting a bin.
So what's the sequel, do you reckon? What could it be? Other than Scarface, you can't steal my ventriloquist idea.
I could see it being Joker because of the tease, but I don't want it to be.
Even Matt Reeves has said that scene is
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean.
Yeah, it's not setting up a sequel. It could be setting up a show or a movie 3 movies from now or a.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the next one.
And I do like.
It's not like
that.
Batman Begins, like the Joker card.
Yeah, I do like that. And
I honestly,
go on.
I know there's been a lot of talk about Mr. Freeze, and Matt Reeves had mentioned maybe that could work. He'd like to do that.
I guess.
But I would like.
Yeah.
I'd like. To be honest, I'd like Court of Owls probably.
The only problem I have with the Court of Owls thing is
Or
its
into that.
Yeah, its connection to.
You are dealing a
Nightmare.
lot with Gotham and his corrupt past
Yeah.
and Waynes and everything, it could work.
That's the only thing. I feel like it'll be this plot point of this movie done
this,
again. Do you get what I mean?
I reckon we're probably going to get more than a trilogy out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, but if we do Court of Owls straight after we've done a corrupted Gotham story, it may feel a little bit samey.
Hush could work for the next one.
That's the thing. Hush is the story
yeah, but it could be the same again.
Hush is... That's the problem. I don't want one movie after another of it just being Gotham's corrupt. Gotham's corrupt. Like, if... Imagine...
They want to do, like, an investigation thing. Hush could work. It's like... And you actually do it. Maybe it's a bit later down. These other shows have happened a bit more times past. There's a bit more rogues established.
I would have been okay with that if they set up Thomas Elliot as being a friend.
Maybe that's the third one. Maybe they set it up in the next one.
But it's like, I don't like that story.
I can see very clearly probably going to be a big climax in the third one. Like either Joker or Hush or Court of Owls. But the second one, I don't really know.
If this is the problem. If this film, The Batman, was about Riddler fighting corruption, then it was about Court of Owls kidnapping Batman.
The problem with this, they sort of bailed on the corruption at the end.
But it ended with the Falcone thing, and then it's gonna.
Yeah, but then after that they just bailed on it.
Yeah, which is the whole second climax thing. But listen to this: if this trilogy is the Batman with Riddler fighting corruption, then the second film is Court of Owls dealing with Batman and corruption. Then it's Hush getting angry over corruption. I'll kill myself if I watch 3 films of that. Do you get what I mean? That's why I don't kind of like the idea of a realistic Mr. Freeze, but then I'm like, that could be completely different from this film.
Yeah, it could be. Then what would the plot be?
Could be fucking anything. It's definitely going to be dealing with Nora and stuff like that, and just a man
I don't want
someone.
Arnold Schwarzenegger again.
Yeah,
I can't go for that again.
But we could have that good, and I'd be okay with that.
That's what I kind of want Mr. Freeze, just so we don't have. That's the only live action one we have of him.
Yeah, I love Mr. Freeze, and he's just been fisted. Name one other.
You could have a Bane, because that's Venom's been set up.
You could, but
like a League of Assassins.
I hate that plot in both Batman comics.
I know you hate Ra's al Ghul.
I love Ra's al Ghul as a character, but him as a plot point in every film and show makes me sick. I'd love to see a good Talia al Ghul. You know? Ugh.
Whatever the Dark Knight Rises was.
No, I don't even know. Now, what's one villain, and I'll give this question to you and the audience, whatever. What is one villain you could see them doing a film about that you would want to watch?
Like a spin-off thing, or just Batman facing?
Batman, and maybe a show, whatever. So you can't say Court of Owls, you can't say Hush, you can't say Mr. Freeze. What do you think?
I can't say anything we just listed off.
Not Harvey Dent, because I've had enough of his origin.
Harvey Dent, Two-Face, corruption.
Yeah, I will cry.
Why is every villain just leap back to corruption?
Yeah. So, what would you be interested in?
I don't know. I kind of like if like the next one, like if each film sort of delved more into one of Batman's like different skill sets. If you get what I mean.
That could be cool, I guess.
Yeah, this one's very much detective.
Yeah.
It's other skill sets. Yeah. I don't know.
So I don't want Hush. I don't want Court of Owls. I would only want Court of Owls because of the maze in a white maze. It could look glorious with him slowly going insane, and then I could actually get some amazing acting out of Robert Pattinson. But you know, I don't feel like Clayface could work in this world.
They want to keep it realistic. No.
If they would do Clayface,
the only sort of like fantastical character they could make realistic really is Mr. Freeze.
Yes, because it's tech and it's emotional.
They could just like,
or they could do Clayface from the animated series, where it's like it's an actor who's addicted to like a formula or it's like surgery that makes his skin pliable and then it gets out of hand. You could
Can you get like a feature-length film out of Clayface? Or just being Batman physically can't beat him
I
till the
think
end.
he could be a character like how Falcone was a character in the Batman.
Like he could be like a Falcone or Penguin was
Yeah.
in this.
He's a secondary villain
He
that
can't
links,
be the main villain.
He's a secondary villain that links directly into the main villain. You know?
He's in that list of villains that wouldn't work as a main villain in the film.
I'm not even gonna lie, I am looking through a
List of Batman villains.
Yes, I am.
If they want to delve into Arkham, I could see Hugo Strange.
Maybe. But what do you do with that other than him letting out like loose Arkham?
Could be interesting to like do something like that.
I wouldn't mind if they combined like Hugo Strange, Hush, and Court of Owls into one film. And I don't mean, oh, we have 3 villains. No. Hugo Strange is the lead member of the Court of Owls, where they share plots from Hush. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, now this is a show idea, Batman, where we never see Bruce Wayne, or we only see Bruce Wayne dealing with Calendar Man. And I don't mean Calendar Man who's wearing the calendar. I mean the
You say next Batman versus Condiment King.
No, the Long Halloween version, where he is the Hannibal Lecter of the Batman universe. And you can do, because in this film, very inspired by Long Halloween. Except from the part about Halloween and the holidays. So you could do a show that's set over a period of a year where you do Calendar Man meets the Long Halloween. Where in that show, Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Like in that Long Halloween.
Speaking of Harvey Dent, I'm surprised you didn't mention that, especially dealing with politicians and corruption in this
That's why I'm like, why... If you want to get films out
At
of
one
it...
point you said like a DA and you were going to be, oh, Harvey Dent. And it just wasn't.
And I'm like, you set up so many people who are important in Gotham, and you set up a new mayor without ever mentioning him, which is like, makes me come up with a thing that they'll never do him, which I don't really mind. Because there's plenty of Two-Face stories. Yet again, the Batman the Animated Series is glorious with his Two-Face, but I don't feel like they'll do that in a film.
Maybe.
I still don't think...
I hope it's not like the Dark Knight thing where he's just in one film and then he's out the next.
Yeah. Yeah.
You like spend more time setting up.
I'd love the next one to be more emotional driven, more character than plot driven, but then maybe have a show that is plot driven, where it's like I said, this is my like idea. You still got to come up with your villain, by the way. You just said
I said Hugo Strange.
As he doesn't have an outfit, he's wearing a lab coat.
I don't care. He doesn't have to have an outfit.
I want to see a merging of like Calendar Man and Clue Master and a bunch of his other smart villains into him, dealing with the Long Halloween story plotline, ending up in like Calendar Man versus the Riddler or something, you know? And Batman's caught in the crossfire of these two geniuses going at them. And then he becomes, in that show, the world's greatest detective, as he outthinks both of them.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
I was just thinking, got Joker and Riddler at the end of this.
Yeah.
We could, I can't remember if it's any good, but we could get sort of a version
if
of the War
you
of
say
Jokes
the
and
War
Riddles.
of Jokers Riddles, that comic sucks so much.
I know it sucks so bad, but you could see sort of like a better version of that.
I'd love to see a third film called The Batman Jokes of the War of Jokes and Riddles. But it's not Joker and Riddler going against each other. It's them teaming up, creating a war in Gotham that Batman then has to overcome. That's better in my head.
Or it could be like a film that their whole thing is like trying to make Batman think in each other, and that's where he's focused.
Yeah, that could be fun, yeah. And, like, Riddler takes up the name of Calendar Man. And then he goes, wait a minute, you're just Riddler. And there's like, run. I'd love to see in these films, they create so, like, in the show, we get a new villain. In the Penguin show, we get a new villain. In Catwoman show, we get a new villain. In the next film, we get a new villain. And we get so many villains up until a point where they can just make a team, or we can have a comic book splash page of them all together around a table talking about how they're going to defeat Batman, and it makes sense in this universe.
Oh, Batman invites him out for dinner.
No, well, no, jokes and riddles can go in the bin. But I want this world to make sense to the point where I can have that scene and there'd be enough characters to do that. Don't kill any villain, because I'll cry.
Some can, like, get the bid, go off, like Falco.
Yes, that's okay. As long as it's not, yeah. Whatever. We're getting off track here. So, that was our Batman review. That was my rant. That was our theorizing. God, it's been a long one. So, definitely tell us your opinions about numerous things I said and where the Batman universe is going. I wanted to do well and go really far, and I'm a person who doesn't even like this film. So, fingers crossed. So, this was the Amalgam Hour. If you want to read our webcomic, which is about superhero, gone insane, etc., go to infernumcomics.com or the link in the description where it's got a lot of our other social medias and projects. And thank you for listening.